All right, and we are here on this short episode to go over the Blood Angels Rites of War for the Horus Heresy. Just as we've done for all the other Rites of War, we're going to start with a brief recap by Dan in a moment. Then we're going to go through both of the Rites of War, starting with the restrictions, so that way we don't get too excited about something that turns out you can't actually do. So, Dan, remind us of these bloody boys.
Oh, of course, the Blood Angels, really cool legion. I remember we loved the way they looked. We kind of loved the way they played. Their special rule is essentially when they get charged, or even if that charge is distorted. I don't know why I said or. I guess, but if they charge, or if that charge is disordered, they get an additional one lower result to wound. So it's not +1 strength; it's one lower result to wound. So, for example, if you're hitting a strength 4 melee weapon with toughness 4, you would need a 3. If you're hitting a strength 4 against toughness 3, you would need a 2. If you're strength 4 against toughness 8, you need a 5, right? Stuff like that. And then that's something with vehicles, we don't care. And then the advanced reaction was really cool. If they get the essential of it is you get shot, you get shrouded 5 up, and then you can charge against the unit, which was essentially a pretty cool. And their units were great too. We looked at some of their weapons. A lot of them had perdition weapons was a big thing, where essentially their weapons were power and flame, but also they were essentially glorified power weapons with brutal, essentially, which was super nice. Like Axe of Perdition with brutal too was such a cool weapon. And their big thing, like I remember we discussed it, and we'll see the Rites of War today. But the big thing was deep striking, because they want to be assaulting. +1 to wound is amazing. It's not +1 strength, +1 to wound. That's an amazing rule. So we hope today that with these Rites of War, you'll get to see how they actually perform when using their specific Rites of War, if they can deep strike, and whether it's really nice or not. So on to the Rites of War then.
Yeah. All right, so first one we have is going to be Day of Revelation. This one is essentially, so usually worlds complied when they found out the Blood Angels were showing up. This is what they do to the ones who still refuse to do so. So they put them through their revelation. So limitations, as we said, we're going to start there. Your compulsory HQ choice in the detachment using this Rite of War must be made up entirely of models with the Legion Warhawk jump packs. So your required HQ choices have to have jump packs. All units that are made up entirely of models with the Deep Strike special rule in the detachment, we're using this Rite of War, have to be in Deep Strike Assault. And detachment using this Rite of War may not take any fortification choices or models with a movement characteristic of 0 or dash, or are that are otherwise unable to move, unless the model also has the Orbital Assault Vehicle special rule. What has the Orbital Assault Vehicle special rule? Do we know?
I believe it's the Flyers.
Okay. Yeah, I actually
But
honestly have no
will
idea.
Double check real fast.
Okay. While you're double checking that. The last one is that it can't include any models that have subterranean assault special rule. So, if you can deep strike, you're going to have to deep strike. Nothing that doesn't move or isn't allowed to move unless it has orbital assault vehicle, and nothing can come up from the ground.
Drop pods.
Drop pods have orbital assault. Okay. That makes sense.
Yeah,
so you're allowed to take drop pods.
Deathstorm drop pods, and like the big boy drop pods.
Got it. All right. So for effects, and actually looking at the server, was this the one that you were going to talk about? I thought we switched. I don't remember anymore. Am I talking about the one that you were going to talk about?
I was going to talk about. That's okay.
Okay. Well, too late now. I've already started. I can't remember. We went with this. So usually,
there's a lot of days in the Rites of War names here.
Yes, actually on this one, yeah. I went in the order I had it written down. That's okay. So at the start of the battle, before any models are deployed or players, or which player will take the first turn is decided. So before you know who's actually going to go first, the controller player of this detachment using the Rite of War must declare to their opponent a turn number between 2 and 4, and that is when their deep strike assault is going to come into play. So you don't randomly roll for it. You predetermine, before knowing if you're going first or not, what turn your stuff is coming in automatically. The controlling player then places a marker anywhere on the battlefield, indicating the point where the first deep strike assault will be placed. So you declare to your opponent when it's going to happen, and you pinpoint the where. You're calling your shot. A deep strike assault, which includes only models from a detachment using this rite of war, does not make reserve rolls to see if they enter play. Instead, they must bring the deep strike assault into play at the start of the turn they chose. In addition, the first model placed to determine the deep strike assault must be placed within 6 inches of that marker that you put up before the battle started, and it does not scatter, assuming you can be placed 1 inch away from enemy models and all of that. If not, you may choose to place it anywhere else on the battlefield. So if they eat up the space and you can't place normally, you go somewhere else, but then you do scatter. So you're not locked into the spot you choose if the enemy is preventing you from actually going there. Otherwise, you are locked in that spot. Also, all units from the detachment that use the Rite of War that are deployed onto the battlefield normally and are not placed in the reserves gain the Fearless rule until the start of the controlling player's second turn. Okay. Since I went over this when Steve was originally going to, do you want to briefly recap how Deep Strike Assault and all of that works for people?
Yes. I'll come out real fast. So, in a normal deep strike assault, all your units with deep strike that you choose to have make a deep strike deployment are organized into a single deep strike assault. You start by placing one model from one unit onto the table. You scatter it 2d6 inches, staying in place on a hit, otherwise deviating based on the number and the direction you roll. And from that final position, if it is a legal position, you deploy the rest of the unit. If it's an illegal position, either by being inside of impassable terrain or enemy models, your opponent then deviates the unit, I believe it's 24 inches. Then
I believe
following
you're
that,
correct on that.
yeah. And then following that, you roll a die. Normally, it's on a 1, the deep strike is disordered, and your opponent deploys the remaining units from the assault within 12 inches of the first unit, although it might be a bigger number because it's disordered. And then if it's an orderly deep strike assault, which is normally on a 2-up, but it could be forced to be a 4-up to be orderly, the owning player places the rest within 12 inches of the original unit. And you could absolutely conga line stuff, which is kind of gross.
Yeah.
And then after that, all enemy units within 6 inches of one of your units take a pinning check.
Mm-hmm.
After they do the deep strike, but before they take any reaction shots.
Yep, before they can do the intercept reaction. Which if you
Yep.
have the right
And
equipment,
that's
you
the
can
only
go
reaction
for.
you can make.
Yes.
Yep. And you could only do interceptors. You can't do, for example, like the White Scar's advanced reaction where you move. You can't do advances, withdraws. Only interceptor.
So this one here reminds me a lot. And actually I pulled it up so I could look at it. It's very similar in sort of outlined idea of the Emperor's Children, the Maruskara, where it's, hey, I'm keeping stuff off the board. I'm keeping it off in a different way, but I'm keeping it off the board. My guys on the board are getting a bonus for a little bit. There you get a bonus for as long as they're not in. So it works a little bit different, but it follows some of those basic ideas. Idea of your cold shot one. I mean, if you're doing a lot of things that want a deep strike, the last thing you want is to be randomly rolling and just missing and getting pushed back further and further. I can only see waiting till like turn 4 if you're doing a very small deep strike force. Your HQ, another unit or so, maybe something else with it. But if you're doing a big deep strike, I would be worried about waiting that long to come in. Will my units be able to be effective? And also, am I not going to get tabled theoretically ahead of time? Because if you're down 1,000 points more in the game, I think that could be very rough.
I agree.
Yeah.
But it is cool. I do like the fact. I mean, so really, I mean, the only thing I can compare this to is when I played demons very infrequently in the first edition, and demons had a very similar rule where they all deep struck in, but it was random. It was 1 to 3 you came in, or sorry, at 3 through 6 you came in, and 1 to 2 you stayed in deep strike, and it did suck when the demons stayed in the warp.
Yeah.
There was only one unit that automatically came on turn 2, and that unit, and you felt it. You know what I mean? You felt how good that was, and then if nothing else came in. It was like, oh well, shit. All right, this sucks. So I do like the fact if you take, and I can imagine like, okay, so I know people who listen already know that I like my big boy squads, my big fat squads, but I could definitely see like 60 assault marines coming down on turn 2. That's what, 3 squads of 20, right?
If you were
Yeah.
running with max squads, yeah.
Yeah, I think I was gonna. Yeah, so you got 3 squads of 20 coming down. That's super. You don't put it in the middle of the board where the deep strike can be like countered. You know what I mean? Like it can't be covered. Put it someplace where it's not going to be. They're not going to get to a turn 2, especially if you're going first, and then just drop 60 salt marines right then and there. And I know Steve mentioned it briefly, but you can actually and it, it, listen, I'm not going to say it's completely legal to do. And in fact, I would do it because assault armies get really torn up by shooting. So actually, I'm going to say this is not easy to do. But you can daisy chain your forces down a line. Because Steve, correct me if I'm wrong. What was the inchage that you have to be from the squad beforehand?
12 from the previous unit.
Unit. Yeah. So drop 12. Well, not you drop on the marker. Then you're 12 away. Then you're 12 away. Then you're 12 away.
Well, no, they're
That's
all from the original unit.
all from the
But that
original
first unit can make a long fucking chain.
Yes.
Exactly. Okay. But yeah, no, it's a very, especially if 20 assault marines, like
Does having a jump pack automatically
um
give you deep strike?
I don't think so.
Yes.
Wait, does
Okay.
it?
Yep.
No.
It's part of the Warhawk jump
Okay.
pack rules.
That's what I was
It's
checking.
only
Because
you know what?
Dan, without that, your assault marines aren't deep striking. Yeah,
Oh, I thought it
no,
gave them the
they
ability to
don't
deep strike. Okay, no,
naturally
that's fine.
have
That's
it.
fine. That's fine.
In general,
Okay,
units
got it.
like Crimson
Got it.
Paladins have deep strike. There are some units. Essentially, if you have a jump pack, you have
Okay,
it.
that's where I'm getting.
If not, you have to be told you have it.
Okay, that's cool. All right, that's fine. All right. But yeah, no, it's really cool, and I can see this plays very well to the Blood Legions. They Blood Legions. Jesus Christ, this plays very well to the Blood Angels. That want to get stuck in combat. Their bonuses they charge, and Assault Marines I think get +2 to the
Yes, at their
charge. He
distance, it would be
says.
+2.
If
Just to 12 inches. Okay.
if they have their jump packs
Sure.
activated, which they're probably gonna do.
Well, especially the turn you
Yeah.
come
So
down,
it's
which is probably a turn you want to charge. You were using your jump packs to actually
exactly.
come in.
Yeah, no, these I like this Rite of War a lot. It's hard to explain what choosing a turn is until you actually have rolled like shit in a game. And I've had that. Oh my god, my custodies. I've done that. I liked it. I don't take transports. How did I forget this? I don't take transports with my custodies in 30K. I always used to either teleport them on or run them across the field because I kind of liked doing that, and also I hated the way the transport looked. Um, but let me tell you, having a 600 point unit stay in deep strike until turn 4 is awful. It is so feel bad. So yeah, no, this is great. I like this. This is a cool Rite of War, and limitations aren't bad.
No, I mean your HQ probably, if you're using this, your HQ wants to have a jump pack because he wants to come down with the
Exactly.
units. Things
Yeah,
that don't
it's
move or fortifications isn't tough because it's not that much in the game. Wise, there's not that many, and it wouldn't fit the feel
it's
of
what
Blood Angels, I don't think anyway.
yeah,
But you are allowed.
it's fortification. It's fortifications, turrets. I always forget the turrets.
Yeah,
Tarantulas, that's what they're
tarantulas.
called. It's fortifications, tarantulas. Do I don't call they're not called thud guns, Steve, but the artillery, the rapier mortar
Yeah,
batteries.
they would probably
Yeah,
be
do they move?
attached. There's a few things. It's your artillery style weapons.
Okay, actually, let me check. I'll
Okay.
check that right now because
All
I
right.
have that. Are they? Do you know if they're heavy support? That's the one thing I
Well,
don't know.
while you're looking, think about other pieces about it.
Yeah.
Um, I think you absolutely aim for 2 or 3. I think it depends on the percentage of your army. Let's assume it's a 3,000 point game. I think for every, I don't know, like 750 or so points or 500 points tells me the turn I have to come in. If I have 500 points in reserve, I'm willing to wait till turn 4. I get closer to 1,000, I'm not coming in any later than about turn 3. If I have more than that, I probably want to be there turn 2. The only reason I wouldn't is if the army I was facing was a very heavy, say, shooting force, and I have the ability to soften the targets up a little first. Where maybe those are the type of units I don't want to be charging into because he has, ranks of ready to fire Marines. So yeah, I'll hit the first unit, maybe I kill them, but he doesn't care because he bubble wrapped the stuff that was important and they can fire me down then. But and knowing
Exactly.
that you have to choose ahead of time means you definitely have to figure out what's going to work best for your army. I would say go in with a plan. Allow it to change depending on what like your opponent's bringing, but go in with a plan of what your army is going to do well, because you don't want your opponent to 100% dictate that to you, because then you're playing their game, not yours. Oh, I'm putting this much aside. The plan is turn 3. And if I look at you and I feel that becomes a bad idea, then I'll allow myself to alter. Same thing with where you might want to come in the board. I would have ideas in general of where these guys want to go. Is it the type of force that wants to hit the main point of the army? Do they really want to be able to try and sweep up the side? Those are some of the thoughts I would go in with rather than in the moment trying to pick something and hope it's a good decision. Did you find what you were looking for, Dan?
To answer your question, by the way, yeah, yeah, the rapier does move. It
Okay,
moves
so
4
you could bring a
inches,
rapier then
so
normally in this.
absolutely allowed. In fact, I was scrolling through my little
Mhm.
Excel sheet. Um, I can't find anything that moves 0 inches other than fortifications and the tarantula,
Okay.
but that's in
And drop
yeah.
pods.
Yeah,
Don't forget
but
about
that's
drop
why they put
Oh,
pods.
that there because they have
oh, that's
orbital
true.
assault. You're allowed to.
Correct.
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay,
Yup.
okay. But yeah, no, I can't
Right.
find
It
anything that
also
moves
future
0
proofs
other
it a
than
little
It's
bit because
tarantula.
there could be things
future-proofing.
in the future that come out that therefore can't move.
Yeah, true. But yeah, that's so
Yeah.
everything's game essentially. That's nice. I like you. This is one of the few ones where it's like I don't see the limitations. Not like, oh no, this kind of side. This is very much like this is something I would run for Blood Angels. Like
Yeah.
this is pretty sweet.
The big thing
I
is
like
you just
this
have
one
to have the right
a lot.
models to do it because you want to be running enough stuff to
True.
deep strike. A single unit probably isn't as
True.
interesting. You could still do it for that, but you just want to have enough stuff. That's all.
Did they re- did they release Plastic
No,
Assault Marines yet or no?
only
I'm
40K
still
ones.
okay.
They're in Mark
Yeah.
7. Yeah, it's only
Yeah.
40K.
They are not out
Okay,
yet.
got it. Okay.
I would
Come on,
love to see,
GW
some
man.
plastic assault marines, and that's a whole tangent of its
Watch it being Mark II. They'll get sold out. What
Doesn't
in
matter what
five
mark they're in, they'll
seconds?
be sold out. Yeah. The mark of that won't really make a
That's
difference.
funny.
Also, someone keeps hitting their table. All right.
Yep.
Let's go on
Sorry,
to the
me.
Day of Sorrow. Let's take the one that I was supposed to take, but now Steve is taking because we've changed places.
Yup. Hello, my name is Dave, and I'll tell you about
There
the
you
Day
go.
of Sorrows. All right, so limitations. In any combat that includes one or more models with the character subtype using this right of war, from the detachment, the controlling player must issue or accept challenge in the combat where applicable. You get to choose which one of their characters' issues or attacks. Wow, my words are all jumbled. If there's more than one eligible model, basically you always have to fight challenges if at all possible. With the Blood Angels from this detachment. Next up, enemy unit that's entirely made of infantry or cavalry. That's part of the detachment at the start of war. That's reduced to 50% or less of its running number. Must declare a charge at closest enemy unit if they're capable of making a charge, i.e., they're not pinned, they're not falling back, or otherwise restricted from charging. At the end of the charge subphase, as long as the target is no more than 12 inches away from model unit, basically they have to charge
Yeah.
if someone's within 12. If there's no enemy units with at least one model in 12, then you don't need to declare a charge because obviously you can't make one. And finally, for limitations, no units or detachment in the start of war may be sent to a deep strike assault, subterranean assault, or flanking assault. And they may not be placed in reserves at the beginning of the battle, although they may enter after it has begun. For example, flyers can accidentally fly off the table, putting them into ongoing reserves.
All right.
All right. What do we get for those limitations? You can take Crimson Paladins as non-compulsory troops, and if taken in this way, all Crimson Paladins
Mm.
gain the Lion subtype, even if they're taken as elites. That's pretty
Ooh,
nice.
I
I
like
know
that a
Dan
lot.
all of a sudden is planning his next army.
I do like them. They're thick.
All models and attachments Rite of War made entirely of infantry and blood angels gain stubborn while they're within 6 inches of an objective. If they already have stubborn or fearless, then they get nothing for this. It's a nice rule. It's going to only come into effect in some missions, but it is nice to have stubborn. You definitely miss it when you don't have it. And finally, any unit made of entirely models with infantry unit type and blood angel special rule, It reduces to 50% or less of certain number of models. The remaining models gain Heart of the Legion and Hatred Everything and the line subtype from the beginning of the next turn. And this lasts until the end of the game. That's interesting.
Yeah,
That is
this Rite of War is
interesting.
they're holding the line against an overwhelming foe.
Yup.
Give me 1 second. I have to check the Crimson Paladins because if I remember
They
correctly,
have
those
Stubborn
guys
already.
do get feel no pain. No, it's the feel no pain if they're outnumbered. If I'm
All right,
not
well,
sure,
you can
let's
search
see.
for that quietly.
Here we go. While
You don't
locked
have to
in
stop us to
combat,
search.
it's not that. I'm going to read it to you.
Okay.
Well, I'm going to read it to you because I want to see. So, Heart of the Legion is the
Yes.
feel no pain, correct?
Feel no pain 6 up or increase
Yeah.
existing by
So,
1.
does that stack with the Blood is Forever? Because all it says is while locked in combat with a unit that outnumbers them, they gain a feel no pain of 5+. But if outnumbered with twice their own number, then they get a feel no pain 4+. Does that mean they go to feel no pain 3+ with this? If they're outnumbered by twice their own?
You'd have to look.
I don't see
You'd
anything
have
that
to
says
look
it
at
doesn't
both
stack.
rules to see what they mention about stacking.
Because I know Apothecary and Heart of the Legion stacks. Right,
Heart of the Legion will stack.
Oh my god, a 3-up feel no pain? Go
But
home.
half of the models of the unit have to be within 6 of
And
an
you have to
objective
have
get it.
objectives to
I mean,
get it.
okay.
That's the other key to get that stack. You would have your normal feel no pain.
So what you do, take an allied detachment, that's in the Deathwing Rite of War, to add that one table middle objective.
I mean, you can always play crazy. Crazy is always an option. I don't suggest it, but you can do it. I like overall what this one does, but I think for the way the game is currently, when you think about the base missions and all of that, I don't think you necessarily gain much benefit at all. Because the stubborn, don't get me wrong, stubborn is nice, but again, stubborn, you got to be near an objective. Heart of the Legion, got to be near an objective. Gaining the line is useful, but gaining line doesn't help you much unless there's objectives. The base missions don't have a lot of objectives.
Hell, even Hatred.
And the other thing,
Yeah.
the other downside to that is if you're at that 50% or less and you can charge, you must, which means here I am, I'm standing on my objective. I don't know, Crimson Paladins start at what, a 3-pack? You could have bought more. Let's say you have 2 left. Let's say you bought enough where 2 is now 50% or less. They're standing on this objective. And I'm your opponent. I have some small squad. If I want you off the objective, I'm just going to put myself close enough that I'll force you to charge me. Or that'll make you have to leave your objective because you won't be able to stay close enough to it. Okay, maybe you'll get your bonuses, but if you're not scoring the objective for the mission, I'm not as concerned about it. You can be kind of kited around a little bit with this. Yeah.
I would see this more in an event than I would at normal table-to-table play. Events usually have objectives on the table. In fact, I'm trying to while you were talking, I was trying to rack my brain for like a non-objective event that we went to, and the only one I can remember is the one where it was like Tanksgiving, and it was essentially bring as many tanks or vehicles as you could, and it's irradiated.
Standard
The world was
Tanksgiving
irradiated,
stuff.
whatever. Point is, that was like the only one I couldn't. Yeah, exactly. But every event I've gone to, there's been a computer console, an objective, something that you needed to hold on to. So, that being said, and because events do publish their missions beforehand, usually, if you have the models and if you're going to an event and it's almost all objective, then I can see this working, Dave. Like, if you know the missions ahead, like PAX is coming up, right, in December?
Yes, PAX.
Right, did I say that right? And I know that Frenchie is already starting to plan kind of the missions and stuff like that. But last PAX I went to, it was objective-based gameplay. So if using that as my basis, right, using events that you go to, not friendly games, but like the basis is you're going to an event with this, I can then see this being a thing. Because sure, you get kited off an objective, but having that feel no pain with an apothecary or hatred everything's amazing. Hatred has saved my butt on so many freaking occasions. It is not even funny. It's hard to explain what re-rolling all your hits does, even if it's only the first start of combat. but getting that feel no pain, getting that stubborn or fearless. Gaining stubborn. That's really really good. I like this, but again, it's as you said, mission or at least event dependent. Because if there's no objectives, then
No, it won't
I
do
don't think
anything
this
if you
does
don't
that.
have
Hold on, do you even
objectives.
get anything?
You
Oh,
will
I get
get
stubborn on an
line on
objective,
your
and the other one
Crimson
is
Paladins. Yeah, you
Oh
will
no, you
get
get
the
hatred,
hatred as
right? I guess
well.
you could, yeah, okay, but
Yeah,
it's only 50%. Yeah, so
yeah.
you get literally nothing.
But
So
here's
it's
the other thing: getting the line
yeah,
doesn't help
that's
you
its
if there's not
strength.
objectives. So getting line is useless. It's essentially the
Exactly. Yeah,
hatred
so
that you get,
exactly. So that doesn't
and the force. Yes,
on
and the
50%
forcing
or
to
less
charge when
models.
you're in those numbers as well.
Yeah. So if the event has, it has all objective missions, all 3 or 4 missions that day are objective based, then take this because this will be scary. I don't want to be anywhere near an objective. Sure, I could try to kite you off an objective, but then I'm getting charged with, and then you get charged, and they have +1 to
Remember, it's
wound, and
one
they
easier to
hurt,
wound. It's
and
not
blah blah blah
technically
blah. So
plus
yeah,
one to wound because there is cases that does make a
oh,
distinction.
I did one.
Yeah,
Got it, got it. Oh yeah, because I guess +1 to wound would be like if you can't wound, then you wound on a
there's
6.
some
I guess is the
possibilities of
mistake
certain
there.
things like that, but yeah, it's
Um,
one easier to wound.
okay, okay, that's fine. Yeah,
Yeah.
one easier to wound, but yeah, that's scary. I don't care if it's 20 tactical marines on a freaking objective. 20 tactical marines charging him, and they're one easier to wound. Is
Well,
it?
remember, there wouldn't be
Go
20 of
away.
them because
And
you
the
have to
other,
have lost at least
good.
half. You know,
Oh well, no, I'm saying like even if there's
And
20,
angry blood angels are still very scary.
What I'm saying, Dave, is like, let's say there's 20 on objective. I still don't want that charging me. If there's 10 of them, I still don't want that charging
yeah.
me even more.
No, I agree.
You know what I
Well, I
mean?
mean, I've always
So
said I
that's
think
why.
this game
Yeah.
plays better with progressive style scoring and when objectives are a thing. So when you have that, it makes sense
Absolutely.
to me. But I think
Absolutely.
without that, if you're just playing a random game, this can absolutely feel bad because if you don't roll the right thing, there might be nothing to use most of your rules for. Yeah, you'll get line, that's not going to help. You'll
Exactly. Yeah.
get hatred, which is nice, but since your unit has to essentially already be half dead at minimum, when you have less, you now might be the easier target to take down. You're going to have to challenge, which sometimes you don't want to. Sometimes that's good, but there might be cases where you wouldn't want to. You're going to be forced to charge. There could be cases I could make it where, all right, you're going to want your objective. I'm going to put myself in a position where you're either going to walk to me to help your charge, or you're going to charge from far away, and I get some free shots at you. And you're probably not going to make it. Like it's good. I like the other one better. This
Yeah,
one
no,
has a lot
there are some
more of what your opponent can do to you.
limits. Yeah. Oh, I will say, by the way, because I know you mentioned progressive scoring. Listeners, I would love for you to comment on this because I go back and forth a lot with a lot of the Facebook groups and everything because I do love progressive scoring. However, I hate the 40K style of progressive scoring where it goes up to 100. I much prefer Sigmar, which
Yeah,
much
you just do
lower
lower
points
points.
brackets. Maybe. Yeah, exactly. I was gonna say I'm curious to what our listeners like more because whereas going to 100 provides more variability. That's not
Variability.
the word. Apologies.
Yep.
Variability. Apologies. It provides more variability. It provides more options. I do like the fact that Sigmar is trackable
Wait, no, so
in the
you can
game.
track 40K. The
So
big thing with 40K type scoring, very quickly, and then we're going to get off of this. The
yeah,
big
no,
thing
that's
with
fine. That's
that
fine. Yeah.
is you need more than one way to score stuff. And that's what 40K has. It has primaries, has secondaries, and has portions into those primaries. You need a variety of things to be able to score that. Sigmar really doesn't have that. Sigmar has your mission and one special chosen thing per round. So it gives you a lot less options of ways to score. So you can have a lot fewer points. You don't need the variability as much. When you look at 40K, when there's, 4 to
Okay.
5 different things you're doing every round in order to try and score, you need to have potentials of larger numbers to help balance that out a bit. But that's enough of 40K stuff.
Okay.
It's all about the granularity.
There
Yeah.
it is. Here's the word. But
All
oh
right.
yeah,
Any other thoughts on these two Rites of War?
I like them. They're both pretty cool.
They both have strong, fluffy themes.
Yes, they do. I will say yes. But yeah, they're fun.
I think that ends it for these Rites of War.